Ladies and gentlemen, Donald Trump, presumably, is no longer going to be sentenced in New York for his little paperwork crimes. This is incredible. This just hit the wires seconds ago. We have the order. I have the order here in front of me. New York prosecutors do not oppose Donald Trump's sentencing delay after immunity ruling. So part of our show today was going to be that Donald Trump has challenged, reporting the news that Donald Trump has now challenged, given the immunity ruling at the Supreme Court yesterday. Donald Trump is now saying, hold on, this changes everything. And as president, I have immunity for official acts. And that would presumably be official, like acts that have to do with running for president too. And isn't that what the charges were in New York? Wasn't that the whole point of the trial? Was that you did this in order to run for president? So what does that mean? What is an official act and an unofficial act? Well, as we discovered yesterday, that's going to take years, decades, a millennia for the courts to decide. And now the court in New York has effectively said they will not oppose the Trump sentencing delay in the hush money case. This broke seconds ago, ladies and gentlemen. We have just like a 3-paragraph article here from the AP. Let's rip through it. Manhattan prosecutors said Tuesday that they do not oppose Trump's request to delay his sentencing. That was supposed to take place days from now, on the 11th. And as the trial is, he seeks to have the conviction overturned, given the Supreme Court ruling, given broad immunity to presidents. Holy cannoli. In a letter filed with New York court, prosecutors and Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg's office say they would be open to a delay in the sentencing order in order to work through Trump's motions. This means that sentencing may take place after the convention or years after the convention. The letter came one day after Trump's attorney requested the judge delay the sentencing. The lawyers argued that the Supreme Court's decision confirmed a position that the defense raised earlier in the case. The prosecutors should be precluded from introducing some evidence that the team said constituted Trump's presidential acts. So would you get a mistrial here? Could you get a delay now that goes on for years, as these things tend to do? Here's the prosecutor's letter right now. Shows you, ladies and gentlemen, what they are, that they have effectively agreed. This is again breaking moments ago. Here we go. Incredible. Let's read here really quickly here. We are in receipt of the defendant's pre-motion letter, so Donald Trump's pre-motion letter, seeking to file a motion to set aside the verdict based upon the Supreme Court's July ruling, Trump versus the United States. In that letter, the defendant requested a memorandum to support such a motion. The defendant's letter states that he does not object to an adjournment. This request filed on July 10th necessarily requests blah, blah, blah. Although we believe the defendant's argument to be without merit, we do not oppose the request to leave to file a pursuant request to adjourn sentencing, blah, blah, blah. So they don't oppose it, meaning that it's going to be now delayed for who knows how long. So there's the letter in black and white. Read it and weep. Incredible. Incredible, ladies and gentlemen. This is breaking news. This is remarkable. We were planning on covering this in the show, but this is the breaking news on what's happening right now. Is Donald Trump is winning his court cases. Now he's going to be able to reverse engineer, because of the Supreme Court, all of these cases. This is it's a remarkable moment. Many would say perhaps an answer to prayer. So in truly, truly historic times that we are living in. How can it get any better for Donald Trump right now? How can it get any worse for Joe Biden right now? Well, it can. It can get worse, and it always will. This is the rule for Joe Biden. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. A man named Harry Enton, who you may be familiar with if you watch the program. He is the only pollster on TV that we trust because he is, what's the right way to say this? Like he's like deeply honest and kind of entertaining to watch. And he's talking through Joe Biden's polls yesterday because there's a lot of fake news out there that like the debate didn't affect Biden. Don't worry, the debate didn't affect Biden. Joe Biden's doing great. No, Joe Biden isn't doing great. Joe Biden's doing terrible. Check this out.
News YouGov conducted some polling post-debate. We can compare it to the pre-debate numbers. And the bottom line, Alice, it's not any good. It's not any good. Look at this. Voters who say that Biden has the mental health to be president. It was just 35% pre-debate. Look where it's dropped to now post-debate, 27%. How about that he should be running for president? It was 37% pre-debate. It's now 28%. I have never seen numbers this bad for an incumbent president during my lifetime. I mean, that mental health to be president, just 27%. You might say, okay, you know, that's low, but a lot of people thought Biden was too old back in 2020. These numbers look nothing like this back in 2020. These numbers were bad already, and the truth is, Allison, they have gotten just considerably worse, even in just a few days after that first presidential debate.
Whew, man. Oh, man. Big mad. Libs, big mad. And the honest ones are beginning to now suddenly black pill their audiences that they've been giving mainline copium and hopium to, that you're doomed. We just played you a clip of James Carville saying, what's the point of the Democrat Party? Maybe we should just liquidate the whole thing. Sell the DNC building. Like, we're not even a real party. That's the existential doom that they are now facing. And here we have it, ladies and gentlemen. We were going to cover this on the show. Here is the news. Outside of the breaking news, Donald Trump moves to overturn New York hush money verdict just hours after SCOTUS ruling granted him unprecedented immunity. That's not true. It's not unprecedented at all. It's the immunity that has existed legally for a president for the past 40 years. But whatever, you got to write a headline. This is making all the right people turn and cry on TV. We have a Salt That Lib supercut that is delicious. Again, if you're sodium deficient, don't buy a supplement. Just watch our show. We have so much salt for you today. All of the right people are having hyperventilating meltdowns on TV over this. So it must be a great day for America. And it is a great day for America. We spent the entire 2.5-hour show yesterday talking about it and speaking with some of the best legal minds and experts that exist. Brett Tolman, Mike Davis, members of Congress. It's an incredible slate of individuals who came on the show to tell us this is just. And of course, this is simply an upholding of how America has functioned, how the executive branch was meant to function. The president shouldn't be caught in a lawsuit. Listen, without immunity, the president, no matter who it is going to be sued 250,000 times per day. That's how it would operate, okay, in order to like just tie the president down. So it is the stupidest possible argument. And if you read Sotomayor's dissent here, you can realize that's how smooth-brained, how dumb the arguments actually are, how stupid these people actually are. But instead of like reading that opinion to you, maybe we might still do a dramatic reading of that opinion. We can't do better, though, than the dramatic readings yesterday from the libs as they cried themselves a river. Please pour salt into the comment section. We'll put your salt on screen for our Salt That Lib of the day.
The Supreme Court is functioning, and it is basically giving a green light for criminal activity in the Oval Office under certain circumstances, which I think, given the present state of our country, is very, very scary.
The president's interactions with the Department of Justice are absolutely immune. Terrifying decision.
For all practical purposes, this is absolute immunity. It's dangerous.
Professor, it's indeed a frightening scenario that you're outlining there.
The president becomes a king in that circumstance, and it's just incomprehensible that the Supreme Court could come to such a judgment.
Trump's Supreme Court has decreed him a king, and now it's just up to voters to say, there are no guardrails now. Second term for Trump, there are no guardrails.
We've been on this steady march of acceptance a normalization of political violence. Now it's almost codified.
I guess, theoretically, President Biden, acting within the scope of his official duties, could dispatch the military to take out the conservative justices on the court, and he'd be.
But then something happened today. Immediately following today's seismic Supreme Court ruling on presidential immunity, Trump's lawyers advised the judge in the New York criminal case that they are going to ask him formally, they're going to file a motion asking him essentially to set aside Trump's guilty verdict, despite the jury's verdict in that case. After the after Trump's lawyers notified the judge that they were going to ask him to set aside the verdict, prosecutors then didn't send in their sentencing recommendations as they had been expected to do. Now, as far as we know, the sentencing is still on. But there is an element of uncertainty now as to what kind of a hitch this might be in finishing up this criminal case in which Trump has already been convicted. We can report tonight that Trump's lawyers have asked that the sentencing itself be delayed. And we expect that Judge Merchan will consider delaying the sentence after he gets both that request from Trump's lawyers, but also after he hears from the prosecutors on that matter.
The sentencing is still on? We hope. The sentencing is still on? It's definitely going to happen, right? We're definitely going to put Trump in jail. Boom! Biatch! No, the sentencing's now off. Boy, it's going to be tasty to tune in tonight to Maddow. Did you see the coat there? It's still on, right? We can still sentence him. Just really quickly here. Julie Kelly. It's so awesome. It is impossible to overstate how effing stupid Sonia Sotomayor is, she says. The real question is, did she cry after she wrote this? This is in a dissent. You can see why Lawrence Tribe, who's a legendary lawyer at Harvard, advised Obama not to choose her because she's dumb. We don't have time to show you the letter. Lawrence Tribe, big-time leftist, said, please don't choose Sonia Sotomayor. She's low IQ, Obama. Like, he wrote that letter. That letter's public. The court effectively states there's a law-free zone around the president, upsetting the status quo that existed since the founding. The official act of immunity lies like a loaded weapon for any president that wishes to place its own interests over political survival. You know, there's something called impeachment. There's also something called laws of governance for our nation. It's like idea that you could send SEAL Team 6 to go kill an American. No, you can't, actually. You realize that's treason, right? You realize that the president is subject to military code. You can't just go murder Americans, unless you're Barack Obama, of course. Immune. This is in an actual decision. This is in an actual decision. Look at this. Sonia Sotomayor. Is she sobbing? Is like, as she's writing this, are the salty tears like jamming up her keyboard? She probably doesn't know how to use a computer. Are they like getting into her pen or crayon as she writes this? Is it melting the crayon she's writing this decision in? Only one person we'd want to talk about this subject with, ladies and gentlemen, is somebody who I don't think wrote his new book in crayon. I'm not sure, though. We don't know. We're not sure. But we do know this. He is the author of the incredible new book, Unhumans, The Secret History of the Communist Revolutions and How to Crush Them. Senior editor of Human Events, Jack Posobiec, joins the show now. Jack, listen, I want to talk about your book, but I really want to talk about your tweet from this morning, your post on X. Don't want to dead name Twitter. That said Donald Trump could use this Supreme Court decision to effectively get rid of all charges. And it seems like Donald Trump's in the process of doing that and winning as we speak with breaking news out of New York. Can you unpack that for us?
I can. And by the way, just for folks out there, the shirt does not say free Benny because, as we know, Benny Johnson does nothing for free. No, this is a free Steve Bannon shirt that we've got set up here for political prisoner Steve Bannon. Look, the Supreme Court's immunity ruling we're already beginning to see. This is the reason that you saw the freak out from Rachel Maddow, from Sonia Sotomayor. By the way, we're going to be releasing a copy of Unhumans in crayon just for Sonia Sotomayor. There's going to be coloring books. I think that the guillotine sections will be very, very colorful. The Chinese Communist Revolution, the Bolshevik Revolution, lots of colors in there in the gulag, Sonia. And so what people don't realize is, because you're sitting there going, and most conservatives are going, well, wait, isn't this kind of just what the Constitution says? Because if you're going to have an executive and an executive branch, then it follows that you would need that executive to be more, or I should say less constrained. He would have more latitude than the legislature or the Supreme Court. This is the entire purpose for a commander-in-chief, having one person that in times of crisis, this goes back to ancient Rome, by the way. In times of crisis, they would take one guy and give him, Cincinnatus, they would give him all the power and say, deal with the crisis, and then we'll hand it back to the Senate. So it goes back to these very ancient beliefs that understand the trappings of where we get our Constitution and where we get our three parties or our three branch system from. And so if you don't understand all of that background and that culture and that history, or you come from a part of the world that has none of it, then it wouldn't surprise me that people wouldn't understand these basic precepts that we're discussing here. The people didn't just come up with the Constitution out of nowhere. It actually made sense. They were moving from a monarchy, but they also understood that unbridled democracy wasn't the answer either. So the real reason for the freak out is because they know that this was going to have a cascading effect, which we're starting to see, and you so correctly covered, with the delay of President Trump's sentencing. Now Alvin Bragg realizes, well, wait, I have to delay this beyond the date, because he does have constitutional grounds here to say that all of this was done as presidential official acts, or potentially even core constitutional acts under Article 2 of the Constitution. Because remember, they were the ones who brought up the hush money payments that happened when he was the president of the United States. And by the way, Benny, if you go and look at the actual opinion, not the Sonia Sotomayor, it's basically her just regurgitating what she listens to on like hardcore feminist wine mom podcasts, and then like put that into immune, you know, and regurgitating that as a Supreme Court decision. It also states in the Roberts decision, and people know Roberts is not some like rock rib Trump supporter type, that even he pointed out that you cannot include evidence in your conviction that occurred when someone was sitting in office. Well, that's so funny, because I remember them including lots of evidence from when President Trump was the president of the United States. And so not only can he move for a motion potentially to push back and delay the sentencing date, of course, he should move for a full-on retrial and vacate the conviction, because guess what, boys and girls, there's a reason that the SCOTUS's first word is supreme. That means above all the lower courts, and any lower court ruling that is now in contention with this Supreme Court decision can now be overturned. This includes the Jan 6ers. This includes Steve Bannon, Peter Navarro, who are currently behind bars. And yes, it also, and this is where my tweet was coming from, he could, obviously, the Mar-a-Lago documents, that was a core constitutional act. As the commander-in-chief, he is in control of classified information. He can determine where it goes. All of the January 6th cases, of course, even the Fulton County case with Fani Willis, which I think people know is kind of hanging by a thread anyway, like Fani Willis's love life, apparently. That
or her pink dress that's on backwards.
Her pink dress, yeah, already having some issues. Yeah, I think she and Jill Biden have the same fashion designer,
stylist,
the same stylist. Yeah. That instead he can simply go and say, wait a minute, the execution and proper concordance of an election is a core constitutional act of the chief of the executive branch. And calling up Fulton County and making sure that everything was done in accord down in Georgia and that all the laws were followed were also a core executive constitutional decision and constitutional action. So that means, guess what? That case could be completely dismissed. Now, we don't know how the judges will rule in all of this, but this test that has been created by Roberts and the Trump court actually sets up a huge problem, because all of the lawfare can get thrown out the window. I mean, right on the face of it, all of the discussions that that President Trump had with Jeffrey Clark. Well, guess what? Jeffrey Clark was the acting assistant attorney general, and as such is a core constitutional member. The Department of Justice is a constitutional agency. That's the president's employee. He has 100% absolute plenary immunity over those discussions. And oh, by the way, if people want to really turn back the clock, this is the exact same argument that President Richard Milhouse Nixon made all the way back before they threw him out, because he was exactly right, and Nixon was proven right yesterday in that decision. And they're terrified because the deep state thought that they had the ability to just throw presidents out when they didn't like them. Not anymore.
So it's very interesting when you study Trump and Nixon, and they're using the exact same playbook. The difference is now we have media like this, and we can broadcast the truth, and you can actually do an end around the corporate press, which we all know that the people that took down Nixon were members of the deep state, were intel officers. It's quite remarkable to actually go through the history there. Don't have enough time. But now we can deliver the truth outside of that ecosystem of lies that has, of course, kept Joe Biden propped up for so long, that is crumbling right now. And there's far too many fires to put out. It is a truly remarkable moment. It's really vindicating for guys like you and me who've been doing our best to build here. And I guess ultimately that's my question, Jack.
I actually asked Roger Stone about that once, and people know that Roger Stone was one of the youngest aides for Nixon. He was on the committee. I say Roger Stone. It's funny because he's the only guy who was in the Watergate and the Mueller Russiagate investigation. So he's got both of them. He bookends his career. And I said, well, Roger, why did Nixon resign? Why didn't Nixon keep fighting? Why didn't he go out there? And Roger said, look, I asked the president that once. I asked President Nixon, and Nixon said, because back then we didn't have shows like Human Events. We didn't have shows like The Benny Show. We didn't have all of the YouTubers and the influencers and this army of people to go out there and spread the other narrative that people just believed. This is the era of Walter Cronkite. This was the era of 3, 6, and 10, 2 national newspapers. And if you weren't part of that, then you were not part of anything, because television, and the television areas predominantly, was not democratized. And it was the internet that returned the democratization of information to the people. We talk about that in the book. We talk about that in Unhumans, because so many people believe the lies of the past, and we're working to overturn those lies. We get into Nixon, we get into Joseph McCarthy, and we realize how much the communists lied to us in the past. They're lying to us now. And the fact of the matter is that I say, look, not everybody is going to be Elon Musk and go found a social media network, or Donald Trump, and launch a True Social. But you know what? You got a phone and you got a piece of glass in your hand, and you could walk into the library and see what they're showing on that front table that's going out there. And you can reach out to people in your territory, be the sheriffs of your territory, and understand that, guess what? The Unhumans, those leftists in your area, I guarantee you, they're in your library, they're in your parks department, they're going into all of the community nodes of influence, because this is how they think. Conservatives are addicted to rules. Conservatives are addicted to, we are going to have the best principles, and we have the best principles, and people are going to like us because our principles. And the left has no principles, but you know what? The left focuses on power. They focus entirely on power. How do they get power? How do they attain power? And so this gets to what you were talking about, that the left had all the power during Nixon. And suddenly, a magic spell was cast overnight, that conservatives are realizing, wait a minute, if we use a little bit of power, then we can actually take our principles and put them into practice. And if we put our principles into practice, then in fact, we can get the country we want and the direct results that we want, not just the indirect results from sort of, complaining about the left. Oh, the hypocrisy, double standards. Like, yeah, we know. Yeah, they know too, by the way. They don't care, because they only care about power. We say follow the money. The left says follow the power. And so this book specifically, and How to Crush Them, is key here, because I'm asking guys, don't abandon your principles. No. But at the same time, when I see people like my friend Stephen K. Bannon get hauled off to the gulag, I go around and I look at the people who are the conservative leaders out there and the conservative thought leaders, and I say, you know something? There's been a lot of people that have lied about Steve Bannon. There's been a lot of people in the party that have worked against him. And at a time like this, it's time to put all that aside. And I'm sorry. But when I see Bill Barr up there laughing about Steve Bannon being hauled off to the gulag, I just have to say no mercy for traitors. No mercy for traitors, even a little bit. And so guess what? Bill's on the list. Esper's on the list. Milley is on the list. All of these people will be investigated for their actions prior to January 6th and whether or not they countermand the president of the United States, going back to presidential immunity and official acts. If Mark Milley is having conversations with Susan Rice, who is not a member of the chain of command, then you, sir, are committing treason. You are committing treason. And Benny, I know you know this more than anyone else. None of this will stop until Democrats are in handcuffs. And I'm not saying all of them. I'm saying every single one. I'm talking about reciprocity. I'm talking about a little thing called do unto others as you would have them do unto you. So until our side understands that, can I get Jim Jordan to start subpoenaing, I don't know, anyone? Mike Benz has got all the lists of the disinformation people out there, that entire mafia, that cabal. Where are the subpoenas? Just use lawfare on these people and then make them feel the emotional, financial, and political and legal pain and harassment of dealing with that. And just watch. It's called mutually assured destruction. And we're going to be doing a little bit of it.
It's an exciting time to be living. And there's so many things that we would like to explore with Jack. But unfortunately, we are at time. So Unhumans is the book that you must go out and get. This is sort of the playbook for what the Marxists wish to do to you and what you can do to fight back. Jack is one of those fighters. Make sure that you follow Jack. 2.5 million Americans. Can't be wrong. 2.5 million Americans. Got it. Can't be wrong, ladies and gentlemen. And if you actually really want to fight back, then vote for Trump in 2024. You can't prosecute a sitting president. So if you want to put everything on ice, that's the way to do it, actually. And a president can't be president from jail, no matter what they do to Donald Trump. So here's, ladies and gentlemen, our golden ticket. Jack, Godspeed, sir.
God bless, Benny. Much love to the family, man.
You too.